What's up, everybody? You're back in here with the Pro Football Pod. You've got Hulk, you've got Coach. We're hanging out with you guys. We're breaking down the 1 o'clock p.m. slate for the 1 o'clock Eastern p.m. slate for the games coming up in Week 3 in the NFL this week for you. Hit that subscribe button down below. Every 500 subscribers, we're going to do a free jersey giveaway to one of you lucky viewers. We'd love to give away 1,000 jerseys, so just go ahead and help us out. We're just going to go ahead and we're diving right into it. The first game that we're going to get for you this week, we've got the Los Angeles Chargers traveling into the Pittsburgh Steelers. Looking like just, one of your tough, just grind it out type of games with the way these first 2 weeks have looked.
I think breaking news, you're going to start J.K. Dobbins no matter what.
Dude, in one of our leagues, one of the leagues we're in together, Christian McCaffrey got hurt, wasn't able to pick up Jordan Mason because we have only 5 or 6 spots on our bench.
Yeah.
Good bit of free agents, picked up JK off the free agent wire. It was awesome.
Yeah, there you go. Now, other players, Justin Herbert really isn't startable at this point. They're not really throwing the ball very often. He's not even really running the ball because of his ankle Achilles, whatever thing. Ladd McConkey, Josh Palmer, not really startable either.
Nope. I don't know if Josh Palmer's rosterable right now.
Yeah, I would be willing to drop him. Like he was a last round flyer for me, and he's
especially if Quentin Johnston's starting to come around.
Which he's not, dude. That's the other thing I wanted to say. Do not go out and pick up Quentin Johnston. Like, I don't care that he just got 2 touchdowns. This guy cannot catch the ball if it's over his shoulder. He's not capable of it. They played against the fucking Panthers, all right? I was at the game, and I'm telling you right now, he didn't look good. The person that looks good is J.K. Dobbins. I think J.K. Dobbins is the only startable person on the Chargers right now.
The only one consistently you'd feel good about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't even start Ladd McConkey if I had to.
Is there one Panther you would start?
Chuba Hubbard?
Even then, I think as my, low-end RB2.
Yes.
Like, I don't feel good about it because they're going to be constantly behind.
Yes.
So you're hoping for PPR stuff out there.
But, again, I was at the game, and they're constantly just checking down the ball. Chuba had a decent amount of targets and catches. There wasn't a lot of yards, but if you're in a full PPR, they don't have a lot of options. Bryce is not the answer for them. The fans do not like him, and honestly, I could see why. He does not look good.
What was the vibe as far as Panthers fans and how they feel about Bryce out there?
They were calling for the Red Rocket fucking quick. Quick. Hey, Andy, warm up.
The experiment's over. They're tired of Bryce. They just want to move on already.
Which is crazy because, if I was in their position, I would just be we just got a new coach. We're building out our offense, and we just got Xavier Legette. Let's get the best quarterback in football. Let's suck this year. I'm down for that. Let's just tank it out and then get Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, Quentin Ewers, whichever these guys is coming out. They look way better than Bryce.
All right, so before we move on to the next one, who you got winning this game? Actually, hold on. Sorry, let's break down the Steelers real quick. What are we doing here? So the Steelers, they're 2-0.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin's got the boys looking good. It's not like Justin Fields.
How many field goals do they have in the first 2 weeks? 8?
They got 2 this week. So yeah,
7.
I think they're sitting at 7 or 8.
That's sick.
7 or 8.
So sick. George Pickens is an auto start. Have to start him. Najee Harris, I think that from what I saw, Jaylen Warren's pretty limited still. Not getting enough carries. Not really efficient enough. I don't think Najee got fed like he did week 1. But I
got 17 carries.
I'd definitely start him in my RB2, easily. He got some receiving work too. They're not just receiving to Jaylen Warren. Outside of those guys, Fields, I haven't really seen them try to utilize his legs
117
enough.
Passing yards and 27 rushing yards this game, but 8 carries.
Yeah. So, 8 carries still isn't enough. I'm not starting Fields. I'm not excited about that at all. There's too many quarterback options with Stafford and even Aaron Rodgers that aren't at all mobile that can get you 4 touchdowns in a game pretty easily. But yeah, I'm definitely not looking Fields. And Aaron Rodgers plays against New England this week. Like I'd probably start him if I like needed a quarterback because of injury or any.
Now, George Pickens, like, are you feeling good about starting him? I mean, it's only 4 targets this week, but there was a couple plays to where if he was able to get all 4 of those to be catches, could have been a better stat line than the 2 for 29 that he put up.
He still has 10 targets over 2 weeks. That's 5 averaged. I'm okay with that. I get that Justin Fields isn't. I think you had to take George Pickens in like the 4th or 5th round. You're likely not going to have too many great options on your bench at this point in the season. I think that I'm still closely monitoring it, but he's too much of a game breaker, man. He's one good play. Justin Fields does have a bit of an arm on him to be able to get him the ball deep. I think George is still startable as a wide receiver 3 or a flex.
Okay. So now we'll get to who you got winning this game.
I think that it's pretty much just the Steelers. The Steelers just are the better team at this point. The Chargers kind of got 2 easy matchups to start 2-0, in my opinion. I think that the Steelers are a better coach team. They've been together longer. They've been in the system they're in longer. J.K. Dobbins isn't going to have 130 yards again. That's the only way the Chargers win is if he gets 130 yards. I don't think that happens whenever Herbert can't. He doesn't have enough targets amongst all of his receivers to really like get that going.
Okay. I like the Chargers winning that. I think the Chargers go into Pittsburgh and take the game. I just think they have Pittsburgh. I think they have better offensive weapons, and I'm really excited to actually watch the matchup with Joe Alt-Delete and TJ Watt and see what happens there.
Yeah.
So next one we've got, what do we got? Houston and Minnesota?
We're actually doing Philadelphia and New Orleans.
Philadelphia and New Orleans. Now, as of this recording, we haven't watched Philly play the Monday Night Football game yet. We do know that A.J. Brown is going to be out of that game. So for this game going forward as well, we don't know about his availability.
He was basically a game time. I mean, it was like the middle of the day Sunday that they decided that he was out. I think that I expect him to play week 2 or week 3. If he doesn't play, I mean, even if he does, Devontae Smith is an easy start. Saquon Barkley is an easy start, and Jalen Hurts is an easy start. I think Goddard isn't really shown enough in week 1 where I want to start him, especially because he's a tight end 2 technically. Like Brock Bowers and all those other guys were going before him.
So now, just overall looking at the game, this game has the feel to me to where the Saints have just dominated the first 2 weeks versus the Panthers, and then, okay, it was the Panthers, and then they did it again versus the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, 15 straight drives with points is kind of crazy. Like, their efficiency has gone to another level. The Saints are Super Saiyan right now. I don't know if they can continue it, though. I don't think that they fall off a cliff. I think this is where
they kind of come back to earth a little bit.
I still think that they're a solid worth. I think that Rashid Shaheed might be worth looking at as like a wide receiver 3 or flex. If you were able to get him on the waiver wire, stay tuned for our waiver wire video because he's definitely going to get talked about on that video. He's still 100%. Available in way too many leagues. And we talked about him last week, and if you didn't pick him up then, that's on you. Like, now you've got to compete for him. You could have gotten him for free last week.
Yeah, and honestly, like, he probably should have been rostered even before then, like, even just in deep leagues for sure. But for me, like, I'm looking at it as Alvin Kamara getting 20 carries, 115 yards, and 3 touchdowns, with his longest rush only being 15 yards. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the receiving side of it, especially in this week 2 game, to where Rashid Shaheed, longest reception of 70 yards. So his other 3 receptions went for 26. Chris Olave, his longest reception goes for 40 yards. So his other 3 receptions went for 41. Alvin Kamara, 2 receptions for 65 yards. One of those went for 57.
Yeah, and was a touchdown. Yeah.
So like very just big plays after big play after big play for this Saints offense so far. So that's where I'm thinking they come back to earth a little bit, because this to me isn't just it's not sustainable to just continue to hit these big type of plays for us.
Agreed.
And the Eagles have gotten better on defense. Looking on the Eagles side here, especially if A.J. Brown is out, Devontae Smith's stock just goes way up through the roof, especially Dallas Goedert as well. Saquon Barkley, obviously you're starting him. So for me, as fantasy purposes, it's pretty much chalk for the Eagles. Like, you're going to start your guys that you have.
Yep.
Like, Goddard to me is like one of those, like, where you drafted him, you probably drafted him as your tight end one, so you're going to start him there. So for this, but I like the Eagles to win this game.
Okay.
Like I said, I think the Saints come back a little bit, and let me just make sure and double check. I believe this game's in New Orleans. So while I say that, I'm just going to stick to the guns there. I think the Eagles come in and knock them back to earth a little bit. If not, the Saints are going to be one of the best stories in the NFL so far.
If the Saints win this one, I'll be a believer, but I don't think that they're that good of a football team as what they've showed up as. I think that people are under appreciating them potentially, and just like they're going to have to game plan for the big play at this point, which might leave some more underneath, but that's not where Derek Carr lives. That's not how he has value. Now, moving on to Houston, heading into Minnesota. I think that Minnesota definitely showed up this past week with the San Fran game. They beat San Francisco, which was a big shocker to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Probably upset of the week, potentially.
Huge. Yeah.
The reports already coming out about Justin Jefferson that he will play week 3, that he's not going to be limited by the quad injury. He'll likely be limited in practice, but we'll probably see a full practice Friday, and then him fully participate at 1 o'clock on Sunday. Sam Darnold isn't startable yet, but damn, bro. Like, damn. I'm absolutely excited about him.
Yeah, I'd be picking him up.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's not startable, but I'd be having him on my bench. I mean, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 5 carries for 32 yards. So, I mean, he's doing it. Like, he's looking really good right now. I'm rooting for Sammy out there. Like, I want to be able to see him do good. I think he got a raw deal with the Jets.
Yep.
He played backup for a little bit there in San Francisco, which is pretty much this same type of system. So he's getting his shot, and I love what I'm seeing out of Sammy there. Justin Jefferson, obviously you're starting him, but outside of Justin Jefferson...
Well, Aaron Jones. So Aaron Jones had 94 yards and a touchdown, plus he had some receiving work week 1. This past week was against San Fran, number 1 defense in football, in my opinion, especially like against running backs. They don't let up running plays. They don't let up receiving backs. Aaron Jones still had 5 or 6 targets, so they were still trying to get him the ball. There's not a lot behind him that's really going to stop him. I personally didn't start Aaron Jones this week. I started Jerome Ford, which wasn't much more in points. Jerome Ford didn't have a great game because they have 2 offensive tackles missing. But Aaron Jones this week against Houston, even though their run defense is a lot better and they do have solid linebackers to stop, I think Aaron Jones still can eat. I'm starting him this week.
Yeah, I mean, Ty Chandler looked better, but he's just a different type of running back, and with how they were trying to play the game at that point, like I said, I'm not going to be scared off of Aaron Jones going forward here, especially in this week for him coming up. Houston, I mean, as we're recording this, Houston's playing right now, so we're kind of seeing what they're giving us versus Chicago. This is one to where I don't know how to really pick this game. You expect on paper Houston to come win this game, but with it being in Minnesota and the way Minnesota's playing, I like Minnesota to win this game at home. Now, Houston, they're the same to where you're starting your Houston guys. You're going to start Joe Mixon. You're going to start C.J. Stroud, Tank Dell. in your flex there. I think Stephon Diggs is still worthy of playing as your wide receiver too. Nico Collins is balling. As we're recording this right now, he's got 4 receptions for 70 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, he's an absolute auto start. I think Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell are still kind of question marks for me, but this early in the season, there's not a lot of options that have popped their heads up yet, where like you're not going to start them. So I'm probably starting both. I really hope that I don't have both on my team, and I can just kind of gamble on which one's going to get the work. But I think that you're probably going to get 4 or 5 targets with 50 yards out of Tank at least, with a potential touchdown. If you took him in like the 8th or 9th round, that's solid. Like, that's solid work. And then Stephon with the 2 touchdowns week 1. He hasn't done too much as of this recording against Chicago, but I think that he's still an easy have to start. The way he's playing for first downs and just like playing hard nosed football for this team, he believes that this team can win an AFC championship. He's playing like that. I love that. I want a part of that.
Yeah. So, like I said, I've got Minnesota winning this. Who do you think's winning it?
I think Houston still pulls it out. I think Houston's a top 5 offense with maybe a top 10 defense in the AFC easily. Probably like a top 7 defense in the AFC right now with a top 5 offense. Like, that's crazy to say because of it being the AFC, but in just that half of the league, I think that they're one of the best teams.
Yeah, they just got that many playmakers too.
Exactly.
All right, so what's the next game on the slate for the people here?
Denver Broncos going to Tampa, and Bo Nix, man, I don't think that he's not just this early success. Cortland Sutton, I'm really not interested in. Josh Reynolds only had like the big play potential this past week. And without those things, he really wasn't worth it. Javonte Williams wasn't really worth it. I don't want a part of anything to do with Denver at this point, and especially not against Tampa, who's been playing good, hard-nosed football, putting up a lot of points and like playing very, very well, very solid.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's starting to get to the point to me where we talked about with the Patriots, everybody says, was it Tom? Was it Bill? Was it this? Was it that? You know, I'm about to say, and I'm so close to putting the stamp on, in no way was it Sean Payton. It was absolutely Drew Brees.
I think that's a good call.
Like, because with Russell Wilson, and then, okay, you got a rookie quarterback, so you've bought yourself a couple seasons because of that.
Yeah.
But man, your offenses look so inept since you've been there, just like completely dysfunctional. I'm with you. Fantasy-wise, I want no part of the Denver Broncos. I think Tampa Bay should absolutely dominate this game, especially being at home. And for me, like Baker, fantasy-wise, I don't know really if he's startable for you yet. I do think there's better options fantasy-wise for you out there.
In a super flex, I actually like Baker. I started him this week over Deshaun Watson, and he did outperform him by only a couple points, but he did outperform him with the rushing touchdown at the end. But the rushing upside that he gives you, plus the fact that he's got 3 potential playmakers at wide receiver with this rookie that they have in McLaughlin, as well as Bucky Irving kind of stepping it up. Rachaad White looks just like he did last year, where if he gets a lot of volume, he'll be worth it, but he's not getting a lot of volume, so he's not really worth it. I think that if you don't have Bucky Irving right now and you have Rachaad White, you need to look at doing that. Like, Bucky Irving's probably still available. He hasn't gotten that much work, but the kid looks like he might be coming from Rashaad's job, like straight up.
He's coming. He definitely looks more effective in the run game, at least. And he just looks, to me, more explosive overall.
9 carries week 1.
7 carries week 2 to Rachaad. Rachaad got 10, but 10 carries for 18 yards, versus Bucky had 7 for 22. Rachaad White only had 1 target out of the backfield, which is absolutely insane. For me, I'm not feeling great about Rashad White. I'm absolutely looking to get Bucky Irving. Chris Godwin is showing to be so far the more effective wide receiver out of the group. Like Mike Evans is Mike Evans, like 3 receptions for 42 yards, kind of about what you expect. But Chris Godwin these first 2 weeks has been balling.
Yeah, he's absolutely being targeted. He's getting the yards as well. He just doesn't. I mean, he doesn't need the touchdowns like Mike does. That's why I like a player like Chris Godwin. I think I'm starting him as probably my wide receiver 2 even at this point. And then Mike Evans, like you definitely took him early enough that you have to ride that train. But I would prefer to have Chris Godwin at this point. I think Mike Evans probably still finishes with more points at the end of the season just because he's going to have those big games more often that are just so over-encompassing. But Godwin's the safer play week in, week out.
Yeah, I agree. So I think we both have the Bucks winning this game. Neither one of us think very much about Denver.
No.
What's your next game on the slate for the people?
Green Bay goes into Tennessee, and Green Bay had a bit of a shocker this past week, pulling out the win. I definitely did not see that coming.
Nobody, like it's so wild too. Like Vegas just always knows. Like with Malik Willis being the starter, Green Bay was only a 2.5 point underdog.
Yeah.
Like, and so everything told me, like, what, how, why, like, in what way their starting quarterback is out. Well, that's because they were just going to go ahead and run Josh Jacobs to death for 32 carries, 151 yards. Malik Willis carried it a few times himself. Marshawn Lloyd got 6 carries out of the backfield. They ran the ball a total of 53 times.
Now, what about Jaden Reed? How did he look? Because I know Christian Watson had 0 targets.
Yeah, Jaden Reed, two carries for 37 yards for you, 2 receptions for 9 yards. Didn't really give you much of anything. Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks both gave you 3 receptions. Doubs 62 yards, Wicks 26. So, I mean, Malik Willis only threw the ball 14 times. Now, he was efficient, 12 of 14, 122 yards and a touchdown. But
in week 2, I sat Christian Watson. I have him in a few leagues. I was very excited about his potential, so I drafted him, even overdrafted him in some cases.
No targets for Christian Watson. Like, for all purposes, I thought he was hurt most of the game.
I would sit every single wide receiver for Green Bay until Jordan Love gets back.
Yep, that's what I'm doing.
And obviously, if you have Josh Jacobs, you're going to start him. If you need a backup running back on your bench, Marshawn Lloyd is a very good option because if they keep giving this type of utilization to Josh Jacobs, the injury risk is going to get bigger and bigger week in, week out, even if it's just small injuries and he has to miss a game. And
also, just down the road, like, he's a veteran, like, and he's been in the league now 5-6 years, like, he's going to start needing to get a little bit of that rest there. So, exactly. Yeah, I'm absolutely with you on that. Looking at the other side of that matchup there with Tennessee.
How did Pollard look in week 2? Because that's a lot. He looked decent in week 1. 16 carries, 82 for a touchdown.
Let me go up in here. Yeah, for Pollard, for me, it's Tennessee's one of those teams to where it's just there's nothing about them really that's like, ooh, yeah, let me start this guy.
Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley didn't do great week 1. He had the touchdown,
4 receptions, 77 yards, and a touchdown. Pollard, he gave you 17 carries, 62 yards rushing, 5 receptions, 40 yards. So Pollard is probably the one guy that you feel the best about starting week to week.
Because Calvin Ridley also had a rushing touchdown. He had 2 touchdowns today.
He had 1 carry for 10 yards and a touchdown. So they are trying to get Ridley the ball. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins had 2 targets for the entire game.
Yeah, we said last week don't start him.
Tyler Boyd had 5, but we know Tyler Boyd, like, he's not going to give you much big playability. So starting him is only going to be worth it if he's going to continue getting maybe 6 to 7 targets a game. My thing in the passing game right now is Will Levis hasn't shown me anything to be able to trust him yet.
And his coach is not enjoying coaching him at this point.
Like right now, Will Levis looks like Daniel Jones with a better PR agent.
Yeah. Loving that mayo.
Yeah, that's it right there. So for this game, I think I can safely say, like, honestly, even with Malik Willis, I think I like Green Bay in this, especially with
Yes.
Malik Willis, the
Yeah.
revenge game.
Yeah. Yeah. Straight
He's
up.
coming back to Tennessee being like, look, you drafted this guy to come in above me. You're telling me his coaches aren't hammering that in his head all week long? Now,
So
where Jordan Love was possibly, he was doubtful all week. They weren't really willing to say he was fully out until yesterday or the day before on Saturday. I think there still might be a chance Jordan Love tries to suit up and plays this game, but I honestly want to see Malik Willis.
yeah, I think that because of what the matchup is, that it's smarter for them to let Jordan Love sit another week, let him heal up a little bit more, and then he can start week 4. They're not trying to put him on IR. They're not trying to put him on the pup. So I appreciate that from his perspective of like him being that type of player that wants to be in no matter what. Be smart. You're playing against the fucking Titans right now. Just go ahead and take the win. Even if they lose to the Titans, I think that they're still going to make the playoffs. So like you have to think long term. Whenever you just paid the guy the second most of any quarterback in the league, only behind Dak right now.
Yeah, I agree. So, like I said, I've got the Packers winning that game. I just don't see it out of Tennessee right now to make me feel good about it.
So moving on to the worst matchup of the week, we have the New York Giants playing the Poo Poo Browns. Uh, Man, I'm probably just going to watch 0 minutes of this game. From a fantasy perspective, Malik Neighbors, I'm going to start for sure. Jerome Ford, because they're playing against the Giants, I think is a good start, and Amari Cooper. And maybe Deshaun Watson in like a super flex.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like this game, like you said, it's so poo poo. Like for me, Deshaun in a super flex, you'd have to be pretty desperate. I do feel good about Jerome Ford. Now, Dante Foreman actually got more work with 14 carries, 42 yards. Jerome Ford gave you 7 carries for 64 yards in this last week. So that would worry me a little bit as a Jerome Ford owner, especially because out of the backfield, I mean, neither one of them really got much target. So if you're going to get the work, I need the carries from you.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper, yeah, he got 8 targets this game, but so did Elijah Moore, and Jerry Jeudy had 6. So for me right now, the Browns wide receiver room is kind of just like, whose week is it going to be this week?
I think Amari
And
Cooper is still the best talent there. Elijah Moore has had his chance with the Jets, and he's had years and years of being able to like. He's such a good athlete. He's gonna be great. And look at what Jaden Reed did instantly with the athleticism he has. He's showing what a good receiver needs to have. Elijah Moore has none of those things. Amari Cooper does. Jerry Jeudy, we've already all heard Steve Smith's take on him. I'm not afraid of him at all. I'm still starting Amari. Especially, I drafted him in the 4th or 5th round. Like, I have to start him. But more than that, I'm okay with starting Amari.
on the Giant side, outside of Malik Neighbors, like I know Devin Singletary gave you 16 carries for 95 yards, but the Commanders have a very bad defense.
Very.
Like
And the
very bad
Browns are
defense.
top 5 defense in the NFL.
So I don't know how I feel about Devin Singletary this week. Now
wouldn't.
going forward, it is a little promising. Same goes with Malik Neighbors. Like the guy, he had 18 targets. The next closest guy had 4.
Malik Neighbors got targeted 18 times this game.
18 targets for 10 receptions and
You have to
127
start him.
yards.
Like, that's Cooper Cup level. Nobody gets targeted that much. Devontae Adams, Cooper Cup.
Start him simply for that. So it's just a matter of, please God, Daniel, just get him the ball.
Yeah, please just throw the ball in his
Like
general
Adam
direction.
Daniel Jones had 16 completions, 10 of them were Malik Neighbors.
So for the final matchup this week, we're going to talk about Chicago versus Indianapolis. Do you have? So Indianapolis, Anthony Richardson's probably scaring some people just because of like how he played in week 2. I'm not scared at all. He's still healthy. If he's healthy, he's playing for me as a quarterback one. If I have a super flex and he's my super flex, I'm super excited about that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like Josh Allen. Josh Allen had
As
an
a
off
super
week.
flex owner, yeah,
Yeah,
we're
like
we're we're okay. We're
you're
not worried.
starting both of them.
Yeah.
Um, what did Alec Pierce look like? Because Pittman is been he's gonna get his starts, but like
Now, that's what I was going to bring up is like, we talked about week 1, how it was just 3 targets and he made the absolute most of them. This week, though, he got 7 targets, 5 receptions, 56 yards, and a touchdown.
yeah,
Like, Alec Pierce is becoming kind of what you thought maybe AD Mitchell was going to give you. 4 targets for AD Mitchell. Michael Pittman also had 7 targets, but 3 receptions for 21 yards. Like, he's not really being targeted down the field.
yeah. I
So
think
that's the problem with Michael Pittman right
Anthony
now.
Richardson was a little vocal in the offseason about how he wants to get Alec Pierce the ball and how much like he thinks Alec Pierce got the shaft last year. So I was afraid to buy into him because of A.D. Mitchell, because of Michael Pittman, because of Josh Dobbs coming back soon, and because of the fact that they love to run the ball with Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson. But if their defense is going to be bad and they're going to be down in games week after week, they're going to need a player like Alec Pierce. So I think that he's definitely worth wavering. And then I'm not going to necessarily start him this week versus the Bears because the Bears defense has been pretty solid against I know it was Tennessee week 1, but even now against Houston, like they're holding these guys pretty solid. Like it's not like they put up 25 points in the first half. So I think that it's worth it to hold on to him. But I'm not starting him this week even in like a double flex 4th or 5th wide receiver. I'm still a little bit wearisome.
Yeah, no, this is one to where you're just going to kind of watch it again. And if he goes out again this week and has the same type of targets and production, then you're absolutely going to kind of, pigeonhole that because it's going to get to the point to where he's not going to be available for you.
Yeah. I'm definitely picking him up, though. Stay tuned to the waiver wire episode this week, and you'll see us talk about Alec Pierce because he's too much a part of this offense to not be interested in at this point.
And so Chicago, like we said, they're playing right now as we speak. It's still, you want to hold off on Caleb Williams, in my opinion. Like that's just kind of, you just got to wait for to see what the rookie's able to give you. He's looking much better this game. Like right now with 2 minutes to go before half, 10 of 12 for 90 yards. So he's already improving on week 1. So that's what you want to see there. DeAndre Swift's giving you nothing in the run game, 7 carries for 6 yards. So a bunch of poo-poo. DJ Moore, I think, is the only receiver right now of his that you would be willing to start.
Yeah, Rome Odunze.
And you're kind of forced to where you drafted him as well because you probably don't have a better option over him.
Even with Keenan Allen being out, Rome Odunze is still not interesting enough for me. I think that next year we'll totally be talking different about him. I think that he might have an Amon-Ra, St. Brown type of rookie year where it takes him a little while to turn on. And then once he does, he's an elite receiver that deserves our respect. But for now, I'm not interested in starting him. I'm still going to keep him rostered in all of the leagues that I have him in, not because of where I drafted him, but just because of the potential that he could break out, and he could break out in week 5. And I don't want someone else to be able to pick him up after that just because they have a better waiver slot.
Yep, I agree. So I'm actually going to pick the Colts to win this game because with them sitting at 0-2 right now, I think they're just going to be fiending for something here. I think the Bears is a great spot for them to be able to snatch one and get a victory under their belts. So I like the Colts at home in that game for the final 1 o'clock game.
I think AR-15 takes over that game straight up. I think that with the loss that they had this past week, he's going to put more on his shoulders. I hope he's not running the ball too much in the red zone.
Nerve-wracking. He could be a little reckless there.
But I definitely think that he's going to put the game in his hands and not give it up.
Yep, I agree. So, hey, If you agree with us, put it in the chat. If you disagree with us, put it in the chat. Regardless, hit that subscribe button down below. Tell your friends, tell your family. 500 subscribers, and every 500 benchmark, we're going to give away a free jersey to one of you lucky viewers. At TulsiRoasTea.com is the sponsor. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Peace out.